I'm going to talk about product and selling. I hope that's okay, because even in social entrepreneurship, you have a product that you sell to people, even if money is not involved. This guy right here is one of my heroes. His name is Sam Altman. He's one of the VCs from Y Combinators, and he's been working on for like 6 years on a lot of startups, helping startups to grow. And he says that when you when you want to build a startup, you have four important elements that you have to think at before you start. One is your idea, the second is your product, the third is your team, and the fourth is your execution. Most startups actually fail because of the execution issues, but we're not getting into that right now. I want to focus on the first two elements. So before you start anything, you have to have an idea, but you have to make sure that your idea is something that people want at the same time. It's so easy to come up with an idea that you think is awesome. Oh my God, I'm going to change the world. I will do this. And then you start building and you get to do something awesome, and then nobody wants it. So this is 70% of startups fall because of this approach. So you have to make sure that your idea is something that people want, and this is why you actually need to talk to people. The second part is the product. This is another way of doing a startup. You just build something and then you find people that want what you built. But again, you have to make sure that the people want and love your product. Actually, Sam Altman comes with a little bit of a formula, and he says that basically you have to build something that a few people love and a lot of people like. So basically, at the beginning, when you start to build an idea, you have to find a little group of people that will love your product, and you just go from there. But this is one of the approaches. You can have many approaches. Ideally, everybody will love your product, like the whole world. It would be awesome, but doesn't really happen in reality. I will introduce you to another guy now. Everything at the back of the presentation, you have all my sources, so you will have access to everything. Paul Graham. He says that in order to build a good startup, you don't have to be an expert in startups, because my whole point being a consultant was that, I cannot be an entrepreneur because I don't know a lot of accounting. I hated accounting in school and finance and all that stuff. And I said, okay, so he got lost, I think. So I said that I cannot be an entrepreneur because there's a lot of stuff that I didn't do. I never did an MBA. I studied business, but mostly the marketing side. So no, I cannot be an entrepreneur. But Paul Graham says that you don't have to be an expert in marketing or finance or whatever, in building startups or whatever, to have 20 companies. You have to be an expert in your customers. Because how do you produce wealth with a startup? And again, I will refer a lot to money and income and revenue, because this is what we're doing in startups mostly. Right, so how do you create wealth? You have to have a lot of users buying your product, because we talk now mostly about online startups, I hope. If not, we'll talk about it in the breaks. And you have to have a lot of users, and to make sure you do something that actually improves their lives. And this is actually the key. The more you improve their lives, the more users you have. But in order to improve their lives is to figure out what exactly would make their lives better. And most of the times, this is the funniest part, people don't know. Because you know the Ford guy, before he created the first car ever, he said that if I was asking people what they wanted, they would have said, I want a faster horse. So how do you figure out what people want? So how do you figure out what they need? How do you figure out what will bring value to their lives? And the key here is asking the right questions, because the answers are easy. But the hardest part is asking the right questions. This is another guy that you need to know about, and you need to follow, and you need to understand what he does. His name is Steve Blank. He's the guy who wrote 4 Steps to Epiphany. And he's the guy who came up with that concept, get out of the building, if you know it. The idea was that like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, how we used to do market research. We would stay in front of a computer and do a lot of online research, see demographics, age, gender, whatever preoccupation. And this was how we actually studied, analyze our customers. Or we did something like focus groups. When you come, you call about 20 people into your own office, you put them in a room and you ask them questions, and it's pretty impersonal. So the guy was saying, before you even start working on your idea, get out of your building, go and talk to the people that actually will help you, will buy your product, the people that actually will get something from your product. So, and he says that most startup, actually there's so many reasons that most startups fail, but it's okay. Most startups fail because they don't know what the customers want. And there's another example here, and that's Eric Ries. They came up with the idea of lean startup. So these guys worked for 6 months and invested $500K on a product. They worked for 6 months on it, and then they released it after 6 months and nothing happened. Nobody wanted it. They had a few users, but nothing happened. So the idea is that what they did is they thought they knew what the customers want, and they thought that the idea is revolutionary. We're going to make something super awesome and everybody will want it, but people didn't want that. So for the next 6 months, they actually worked on talking to customers, bringing customers to work with their product with them, looking at customers when they use the product, and they said, oh, how am I going to do this? Oh, I don't like that. Oh, a friend of mine is here. It was a social game like Sims, something like a virtual reality thing. So, they looked at what people wanted, what people did, and this is how actually they became famous. And now he's one of the startup advisor, Eric Ries. He's also in the back of the presentation. There's a lot of work to do after we're done today here for you, by the way. Okay, so now we get to the real problem. So at least I hope I convinced you that you have to know your customers before you start anything. You have to know the people that you're going to work for. But how do you do that? Because as I was saying, just taking a group of people and asking them questions or surveys, or they don't work so well. So this is the Kotler's marketing model with the 5 C's, 4 P's. You know, you learn this all in school stuff. So in how you do all the whole marketing process, how you get to know your customers, but it has a lot of steps. And if you actually look at it, the customers are just one element in many. This is not customer centric. This doesn't send you straight to the core of your issue. It just gives you a process that you can do, and it is helpful. I will never say that all marketing is not useful, but when we talk about startups and we talk about ideas that we need to build fast, and we talk about the world today, we can't apply this. This takes a lot of time. This takes a lot of effort, and usually we don't have money and we don't have time when we do a startup. So we cannot do this. Another marketing approach is to know your customers. Product marketing actually is not even focused on the customers. This is mostly the computer company or industrials when they just build a product and they throw it out there and they just convince people to buy it. The customer-focused marketing is the more retail approach when basically you do a lot of product and you work with your competition and try to convince the people that your product is better. So this is like Procter & Gamble. They put a lot of money in advertising, a lot of money in packaging, and all the building their image and their brand and convincing people they're the best and things like this. So this is just one way of doing marketing. First of all, we talk about a different type of world because we have the internet and everybody is connected, and when some shit happens, everybody knows about it because we put it on Twitter, we put it on Facebook, it's all over the news. And you see now the media, that's the funny part, when the newspapers actually start to take articles from Reddit or from Twitter or posts from Twitter or BuzzFeed and stuff like this. So now everything happens online and everybody knows about everything. If you have one mistake, if you do one mistake with your customers, the whole world will know. And then your image will be affected, your sales will be affected, and everything can fall from just one mistake. So now companies focus more on customer experience. They focus on an entire relationship with the customers. We don't talk about, we just build a product and then just throw it out there and then people will buy and make sure that, the moment they buy it, we're done, our business is done. Right now, the experience starts before they buy the product and continues after they buy the product with the customer support, in case they have any issue, in case they want something else, in case they have a question and nobody answers. So we talk about transparency, we talk about authenticity, we talk about creating genuine value for your customers. And these are the elements that you want to take into consideration when you think about your customers. So we're not going to do focus groups. We're not doing research online. What are we doing? So what are we doing to know your customers? We just become friends with them. You have to ask yourself a question. What do the people need, and how can I help with that? The whole point when you build a startup is to make sure that what you do helps people, a group of people, a bigger group of people, and so on. It depends what you want to do in the end. You have to get personal. You have to go and meet those people. You have to go and talk to them. You have to, it's not like an interview. It's not a formal interview. Like you just go with 20 questions and then you ask and then you fill in. It's not going to happen like this anymore. You have to talk to them like when you go out and you meet a new person and you start to ask them about their lives and you start to ask them what they're doing, what they like, what they love, and all that. You have to get into their head. You have to get into their shoes. There's this startup called HomeJoy. They are doing cleaning services. So basically, there are two brothers, a brother and a sister. So what they did is they noticed that cleaning in New York is very expensive, and they wanted to help people to actually have a better cleaning system with that is not risky, that is safe, so nobody will steal anything, and that has a lower cost. So what they did is said, okay, I'm just going to make a site. We're going to talk with some cleaning service people and so on, and they will have profiles on the site, and then people book us on the site. But they tried it, and it didn't work. So what they did actually, first of all, they did the cleaning themselves, so that they understand, okay, what is this about? What does this involve? So they did the cleaning themselves for a couple of months. So they figured out exactly what the people needed, and secondly, they started talking to their customers. So they took the customers out for drinks or in a bar for lunches, and they started talking to see, okay, so what's your problem, to understand exactly what they needed related to their product. When you talk about empathy mapping, you can do it, and this is a never-ending process. This never stops. You do this before you build your idea, and you keep doing it because you need to validate your idea, and we live in this very fast world when everything changes, new technology, so you always have to be on top of it. You always have to understand what's changing, what else you need new, what happened to your customers, what else they need. Is there everything like 6 months ago when you started all this stuff? And of course, when you build new features, when you want to release a new product, when you deal with customer satisfaction, customer satisfaction, I mean unhappy customers. This is the moment when you actually have to go and really understand what the problem is, because sometimes it's not the product can be perfect, but it's something else the customers need that you don't have there that can actually ruin the whole experience for them. Right, this is a little bit of a big slide. The empathy mapping, the whole process, it's a process like everything. You have to take some steps, and you have to get some conclusions, and then you implement them. It was developed by a Stanford professor who said, I really like his quote here, rather than start with shiny technology, just go and talk to your users and understand what they want. But before you go and talk to the users, there's one important thing that you have to do. You have to know who they are. And this is actually, for me, this is harder than understanding what they need. Because you start sometimes, when you start a product, when you come up with an idea, you are the first customer of the idea. Because you think of it, hey, I have this problem, and I think it needs to be solved, and you get attached to it, and you think you understand everything about it, you think you understand the problem, you think you understand what needs to be done. And that's why many founders, the successful ones, actually started company based on the problem or problems they actually had. So the products they built were something they really needed. So, but the problem is that you get attached to the idea. And the hardest part is like going out and talking to people, because you don't want to hear no. You don't want to hear, oh no, I actually don't have this problem, or I don't think that you should do it like this, or it's emotionally draining, and I did it, and I know how it feels. When you already, I think I know what the problem is, I know I will do this, and it's going to be awesome, and you go out and say, oh yeah, I don't care about that, I use Facebook for that, it's fine. It's like, no, but this is better on Facebook. No, why? Because then I'll be on like 10 social networks, and it's too complicated for me. And you don't want to hear that. So that's first thing you have to do. You have to really break these barriers and be open to understand that what you think might not be the right thing to do. And it's better to actually suffer a little bit now than build something and then try to get it out to the people, and then they don't want it, because the suffering will be a little bit more. So you have to break that and say, okay, don't get attached to your idea. I know you love your ideas. This is how it goes. This is why you want to build them. You love them. But you don't have to get attached to it. And think that this is something that can continuously be improved. It can be better and better. And this is what the people will help you do. Make it better. Every time you have a new product, a new idea, you need new customers, you have to go through all these processes, all this thinking. Usually finding the target of your idea takes not all 5 minutes like now, takes a lot of hours, a lot of days of thinking and working and talking to people, because sometimes you think you made a choice and you say, hey, these guys are perfect, and you talk to them and you figure out they actually don't need you. They don't want what you're doing. But maybe their mother actually wants that. I'm just saying the mother because I always think of kids product. That whenever you do kids products for kids, you have to refer to the parents or to the teachers or whoever has the money, because you also have to think of that. Who's going to pay for that in the end? So now we go to the empathy map. The empathy map is now when you figure out who you want to talk to. Let's say we want to talk to high school kids, or we want to talk to little companies, small companies, and see if they actually have a need, but they don't have a budget to train their people and grow. You have to go to these people and talk to them and figure out what you want to figure out actually if there is a problem, because in the end your idea wants to solve something. So you have to figure out, is there a problem? If the answer is yes, the next question is this problem big enough for me to actually put my next 10 years, because the average life of if you become successful, you spend at least 10 years working on that startup. So am I going to put my next 10 years in actually building something to solve this problem? Is it worth it? So this is what you want to answer to. My name is here. And the process that was developed by the Stanford guys, this is me up there, but usually in the middle you just you have to draw a face or something, you put a photo of somebody if you find a photo. So this is what I'm talking about. This is the empathy map. The empathy map is a tool that you will use to actually understand your customers. It has 4 dimensions, but it's very flexible. You can remove one or add another one if you think it's important to know your customers from another perspective, from another dimension. You can add it, or and it's basically, it can be like how to make friends with people. You just meet them and you ask them questions. The dimension that you're focused on are, first of all, you have to understand what the person sees. What does it mean? It means that let's take me as a customer, because I put myself there, it's easier. You just think, okay, so what do I see every day? I see my taxi driver that says no to me every morning, so you already identified the problem. Uber is solving that one. I see my nice office, I see my colleagues, I don't know, I see presentations, I don't know, I see a lot of things, so but we'll go into details in one of them, so I'm not going to do it now. And this is why now the importance of asking the right questions comes in here, because you can be limited when you look at it from your perspective. So that's why you need to talk to the people who actually the people who you want to buy a product. So you need to talk to those people, because if I look from my perspective, my world is in my bubble. I know what I see, I know what I say and do every day, or my friends say and do. I know what I hear every day, I know what news I read, because, okay, I'm not listening to radio anymore. But it's easy, I'm in a bubble. I'm one person, and I know my environment is made of, 200 people maybe, and whatever I see on the internet, but that doesn't make me a representative for my product, unless the problem is something that I face. And what is she thinking and feeling? Because the idea is, when you go through all these 4, you will understand the motivation of the person, you understand their frustration. This is why this is not part of this, because sometimes they don't take it in consideration, like pain and gains. You understand what hurts me, because this is where you want to work, because if you understand what my pain is, you can build on that. You can come up with something to solve that. And if you understand my gain, that means what makes me happy, what I'm passionate about, what do I consider successful, because success has a different definition for each person. You know how to sell your product to me, which is the next step, because if you understand my problem, then you have to understand how to position yourself with your product, so that I actually move from whatever I'm doing now to solve my problem, because I'm trying to solve it, obviously, like my taxi, solving with Uber, and to come up with something better than that, or come up with something unique, so that you convince me to come and buy a product. Why do you do this? When you have the perspective of the customer on your product or your idea, if you don't have a product yet, what you're searching for is validation. You want to validate your idea. And validation can mean anything, like if you go out there and say, hey, I have this awesome idea, like I want to build these courses for underprivileged teenagers and so on, people will say, oh my God, it's awesome, yeah, cool, I'm sure it is going to work. If you tell them what you're going to do, most people will say, yeah, that's cool, I think it's cool, I'm into it, I'm going to do it. But then you build a product and they don't do it, they don't take it, they don't adopt it. So this is not a way to do it. You have to understand them without talking about the product. So you already have the idea, but you have to understand what the problem is. If that problem exists, you can guide the interview, the discussion. I call it interview, but it's more of a discussion, so that it goes around that area that it interests you. Like, for example, if you want to do something with fitness and health, you can talk about their lifestyle and see what they eat, how they exercise, what the environment is. You can guide a little bit of conversation if that's the area you want to go into. But you don't tell them, what if you had this to do every day? What would you do? Because if you already put something into their head, now they will focus on that and will build on that, and you don't really get to the bottom of it and see exactly what is the core issue that you want to solve actually. Okay, well, that's it. So now you know that you have to know your customers.